Hi friends, it's time to read A Night Divided. We're on page, we're in chapter 26. It's page 165. Let me pull this closer to you. I think that's good. One day is better than 10 tomorrows. That is a German proverb. The next day was Sunday, which gave us some much needed time at home to rest, bathe away at least 5 layers of caked on dirt, and gulp down the food from Anna's mother as if we hadn't seen anything edible for weeks. The tunnel had made made us both noticeably thinner, but we were also both more muscular in our arms and shoulders. While I liked feeling stronger, I also knew it was important for us to eat enough to avoid looking like we were in the process of starving. People had begun staring at us lately, and stares invited questions. Questions led to gossip, which surely ended up in the form of reports at Stasi headquarters. Fritz and I had chosen to dedicate the day to pleasing the hidden microphones. We talked about how grateful we were to have the allotment of land and how much we were learning about gardening. We spoke of missing our mother, but being proud of her for taking care of Oma Gertrude and not burdening the state. We discussed Fritz's enthusiasm to join the military at the end of the month and my hopes to get more responsibility from the pioneers this fall. Maybe we laid it on a little thick. No doubt some of what we said brought groans from whoever was tasked with listening to us, but these conversations were only a game now. If there were any consequences for our overworked chatter, we didn't care. We wouldn't be around to face them. Fritz and I worked together to get the apartment cleaned up, but we were both delaying the worst job of all, the laundry. It had piled up over the last week and a half to something on the scale of a small mountain. Our clothes were dirty and smelly and so stiff with sweat that they practically held their shape after we had removed them. The sheets from our beds were even worse. It was bad enough now that I sometimes woke up in the morning with new dirt on my face from having slept on it in the night. We have to wash these, I said, but if we hang them up now, they won't be dry by bedtime, and once we return from the garden tomorrow, they'll only get dirty again. It's too bad the washing can't get done for us while we're gardening. Yeah, Then I stopped as an idea snapped in my head, like someone had flipped on a light. Suddenly I knew how we'd get rid of the dirt. I looked over at Fritz and saw a mischievous gleam in his eyes. We had the same solution in mind. I was sure of it. The pond next to the garden, Fritz said. I grinned. That was exactly my idea. On our way to the Welcome Building the next morning, Fritz and I stopped by a lumber shop for more wood and rope and a handful of nails, all for a clothesline. It would take much of the day to build, but it was absolutely worth it. Fritz nailed the wood together to make 2 tall T's. I dug 2 deep holes in the ground, about 10 meters apart. We chose the spot carefully, exactly parallel to the Berlin Wall and in front of the pond. Then we set the post into the ground and filled it back in with dirt. Our posts weren't quite straight, and Fritz said they'd probably tip over in the next big wind, but I thought they were good enough for our purposes. We ran rope between them. It sagged a little, and the longer fabrics might brush against the dirt, but that was fine by me. It was time for a test. I carried a bucket of dirt from the building with a single bed sheet on top. If the guards were watching, they'd see me wash that sheet in the pond and then hang it on the clothesline to dry. With the sheet blocking their view, I would then empty the dirt into the pond, then back to the building for another load of dirt and another sheet to be washed. With the second sheet on the clothesline, I had even better cover from the guards. There was plenty of laundry to be done and endless loads of dirt to be emptied. Fritz and I worked that way throughout the week. By the end of the week, he was 10 meters in, but we were also slowing down. It took time to walk the piles of dirt from so deep within the tunnel back out to the air raid shelter. And it took me more time to empty the dirt because now I had to sneak the dirt out from the building and get it to the pond, then wash and hang sheets on those trips. And we both had to put in time on the garden because it was almost certain that at some point someone would drive by to check on us. Fritz and I began working longer hours, arriving as early as night. We were barely sleeping. As early as possible in the mornings and staying as late as we could at night. We were barely sleeping, eating as little as we could to get by, and working. Always working. Occasionally, on our trips to the Welcome Building, we walked past the platform where I had seen Dominic and Papa, but they were never there anymore. I wished they were. I wanted to let them know we were digging, as Papa wanted. I tried to remain patient, though, and keep focused on the fact that we were moving deeper each day. The problem was, as Fritz pointed out, that his 18th birthday was coming up soon, exactly 3 weeks from now. That was our absolute deadline to be finished. We weren't sure how much farther we had to dig, but it was a long way. Nor could we just walk away if we didn't finish in time. The tunnel had progressed far enough that eventually it would be discovered. And when the Grenzers found it, figuring out who had dug it would be the simplest of mysteries. If we don't finish, we need a backup plan for escape, Fritz said. The second we began digging this tunnel, we committed ourselves to leaving, one way or another. We're not swimming the Spree, I said. That had been a bad idea weeks ago, and it was no better now. Fritz gritted his teeth. We can tie ourselves together with a rope so we can help each other against the current. All the easier for one of us to pull the other underwater. And what about Mama? We're not leaving her behind. Then what's our backup plan? Fritz wasn't as angry as he sounded. It was only the same frustration as I felt too. Everything else is far more dangerous. We can't jump over the wall. 3 of us can't be smuggled across the border at once. And we know how that idea ended for Peter. So what do? I stood up and dipped the bucket in the dirt again to carry more of it outside. We'll finish this tunnel, Fritz. We'll finish this tunnel as if our lives depend on it. Because now, they do. By the beginning of our 3rd week of digging, we had washed every sheet in the apartment at least 10 times. And since the pond was constantly being flushed with dirt, the water was hardly clean. The sheets looked worse and worse with each washing. I figured that was good news. It gave me an excuse to pull them down and wash them again, along with more hidden dirt from my bucket, of course. If my mother saw these sheets, which were now only white in the past tense, she would be horrified. But I couldn't have been happier with their lack of progress. And next time, chapter 27.